euthanasia, regardless if you call it mercy killing or whatever compassionate term, it's an attack against the family. Infanticide, it is an attack against the family.
Welcome to the rock. Welcome to the rock. Welcome to the rock. Welcome to the rock. Welcome. Solid Rock welcomes you.
Hi, welcome to Solid Rock Christian Assembly. My name is Hina. We're continuing the series, Fighting for the Family. We know that God has placed value and power in the unity of family. So join us as we delve into part 3 with Pastor Garth Rowe.
Solid Rock welcomes you.
Fighting for the family. The family, by far, is the most important building block to human society. As a result, deliberate, conscious, and intense effort should be put out to ensure the protection and the advancement of the family. There is a multifaceted, diabolical force that is unleashed against the family across the globe. And especially here in the Western world, legislative actions are being taken to minimize the role of parents and to increase that of the state. In our own state, our province here, Ontario has been at the epicenter of a radical sexual revolution that is continuously spreading around the globe and damaging many, many homes. Millions of children and multiplied thousands upon thousands of homes. Not to mention that the definition of marriage has also changed within our culture. The traditional view of marriage has changed. And so there is an unleash of so many things right now to come and to fight against what is the family, what has been the hallmark and the foundation, the stability of society, our human existence for generation after generation, hundreds and thousands of years. Right now it is being challenged at the very foundation, and we are up against a real enemy of the family. Homosexuality is an attack against the family. Homosexuality does not have the capacity to create family or anything of that sort, but it destroys families. Abortion is an attack against the family. In the United States of America, it is said that some 4,000 plus children are aborted on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, they say that throughout the 1973, when the Roe versus Wade case came into being, they said that we have lost in the United States, our neighbors, they've lost over some 60 million children. And funny enough, I was told, or I read somewhere, where immigration, to keep the United States population stable, that so far the immigration numbers are somewhere near 60 million. That's quite interesting. You abort 60 million, and then you have to use immigration to fill in that 60 million. In Canada today, the in thing today is having what you call childrenless relationship. We're averaging something like 1.2 or so children per household. And so as a result of that, we're seeing a maturing population in our nation because the children are no longer fashionable. It is no longer part of our existence because they are what you would call a plague to our prosperity. They are an inconvenience to our convenience. Children today are looked at as pretty much as what you would call it, like just as we don't really, and occasionally now we get to that point where you say, maybe I could use one. I got rid of a few the other over time, but maybe now I could use one. Let's just have one this time. And then sometimes now, we in our Canadian culture see young couples walking. Their little poodle. And then afterwards, because a poodle is not really a real dog, it's a deficient genetical mix-up. And so they're walking around like this with this little thing, and then all of a sudden you say, do you have any children? Yeah. This is our first one. Because we don't even know the difference anymore between a dog and a man. And if your poodle was so great, they would form a poodle society. If your poodle was so great, at some point or another, the poodle will say, you know what? We need to protest to our masters and let them know that we do not like the kind of food that they're doing. They need to upgrade. They're having steak, and then they're giving us these little things. But poodles don't have any sense, because they're not human. And I know in our culture today, this is like profound, because we don't know the difference. Here, let's say it one more time. Your poodle is not a person. How is that? Yeah. Your poodle is a dog. But our societies are such now that we have gotten to the point where children are put on the same level. They're different, they're unique, they're special. They rise up, they become immensely intelligent thing. They learn to use iPad at 2. I'm seeing some in this church using iPad and iPhone at 1 plus. But these things are a hindrance. We're having 1.2 children, somewhere in that range. Funny enough, they say the Muslims in Canada are having 8-point-something children per household. Now consider that now, where this nation is going. And we need 2.2 children to stabilize a population. We're way, way behind. We're talking to keep a population stable and to also deal with the aging population, where people are getting older but not as many coming into the workforce. Therefore, we have to ensure that anywhere between 250,000 to 3,000 immigrants come here on a yearly basis so as to help keep population stable. Abortion is an attack against a family. Euthanasia, regardless of if you call it mercy killing or whatever compassionate term, it's an attack against the family. Infanticide, it is an attack against the family. Hollywood, in many ways, is an attack against the family. I was reading an article recently from this recent blockbuster movie, The Black Panther. And here was the article commenting on the fact that they did not like this movie simply because there were not enough representation to meet the quota for homosexuality. In other words, they did not show enough subliminal and clear messages to show that this movie is inclusive. When since we have to have inclusive movies. But it is a demand of our society today that in order for inclusivity used to simply means that we're just not biased, you're welcome. No, we can't even use that term anymore. They're moving away because ultimately diversity and inclusivity ultimately means sexuality. It's an attack against the family. Pornography is an attack against the family. When you, as a man or as a woman, go out there and you allow yourself to embrace certain kinds of image and wildness and so forth, these things will have diabolical consequences as it relates to your family. These things are destructive not only to you, but to the very foundation of our society. Many of what we call entertainment today is an attack against the family, whether it's Modern Family or whatever kind of family that they distribute out there. It may be funny, some of the things. You may sit there and some of you may religiously watch these things, but they are attacks against the family. Many of our music today, it glamorizes sin and immorality, and at the same time, it is anti-family. It's rambunctious, rebellious stuff that often spew from the mouth of individuals themselves who are radicals against families. And we need to fight for the family. We need to fight for the family. Come on, church. We need to fight for the family. Our job as Christians is to recognize the importance of the family, not only to society, not only for society's stability, but also to recognize that it is a major priority with Almighty God, who is the architect and the mastermind behind the family. In the very beginning, the Bible said God created man and woman, created that species, and then God named them male and female. And then God said, as it relates to that union, a man shall leave his mother and his father and cleave to his wife, and they become one union, one flesh. And then from there, that was the origin of the family. Long before there was a nation of Israel, long before we learned about Egypt and China and all these different places, God laid the foundation for the family. There was a destructive activity within the family a while after creation, where two brothers came before God. One brought before God a sacrifice that was appropriate in line with the demands of Almighty God. And then the other one says, I just want to do it my way. So after he went there and basically say, well, God, this is your requirement, but this is how I'm going to do it. God said, I am not. So God accepted one sacrifice, rejected the other. And then at the end of the day, some sort of conflict arose where maybe jealousy or whatever took place in the field itself. And then it's almost like you're sort of Mr. Goody as far as God is concerned. And then the end result was that Cain ended up killing his brother. God came on the scene and God said to Cain, Cain, where is your brother Abel? Cain said, am I my brother's keeper? The reality is that the reason why he said, am I my brother's keeper? It is an indictment or really a conflict of what God told him before. That is, Cain, you are your brother's keeper. And it is the same thing when it comes to family. We are our brother's keeper. We become a union. We build, we work, we move together. And these things allow for the stability of society. And so individualism has become a prominent force within the framework of society. And just as how we're having individualism in terms of individual spirituality, which is really the demise, so to speak, of Europe, where people say, I am spiritual, but I am not Christian. I am spiritual, or I am Christian, but I am not churchy. I serve an organism or God, but I do not serve an institution. And so this kind of unique reasoning has caused the demise of so many things. And so we are seeing this thing multiplying and causing so much problem in so many sectors of society. And we need to be aware of the damaging impact of such mindset. We need to fight for the family. You need to fight for your family. National unity and strength has been weakening internationally, where people's allegiance to countries have pretty much, it's like we're not really, into this national thing anymore. Community unity also has been weakening everywhere. The point, though, is that community strength was so strong that when you thought that because your parents couldn't see it, or those in your household couldn't see it, guess what? The community was observing, and they would watch and they would give report. As a matter of fact, some community people were so presumptuous that they would just come up there and say, and just grab you and give it to you. I was in study class. This was in a totally different parish, a parish called St. Elizabeth. And I was there at boarding school. And then all of a sudden I was there playing, around, seeing who had the best signature, because you figure fancy signature some days will get you somewhere without education. And then all of a sudden he walked in, this man. And of course, the other day he just befriended me on Facebook. I shouldn't have responded. But he came there and he said, "What are you doing?" "Practicing signature." And then, he had certain terms for me, and then he took an umbrella that he had there, and he just said, "Your dad would be so disappointed to see what you're doing here." And I'm thinking, well, if it's my dad, I'm thinking, I didn't say it, it's my dad, why would it be your problem? And again, he just went, "Koof, koof, koof," and all of that. And funny enough, here's the thing, some of you say, that's abuse. But you know what? Maybe there's some abuse in it. But here's the thing, I still thank God for it, because if some of these people did not step up in the community, what would be my outcome? I have a friend today who runs the entire program at Ryerson, the entire nursing program there, a professor there, and the head of the entire thing. And she's saying when she graduated and she went to high school, she was so poor. And you're poor when poor people call you poor. She said, we were so poor that the neighborhood had to come together to buy my uniform to go to school. And then you look again, because it's community compassion. Look, this is one from our community. This is one of us. And so therefore, their failure becomes our failure. Their success becomes our success. So we can strictly say, he is from here. It makes such a difference. When I go back to my community, I'm like a little hero there. I go there and all of a sudden the people are just saying, "I remember you. I used to do this to you. I used to change your diaper. I used to do all of that." I'm thinking to myself, you go back there and it's like, how do they, and then all of a sudden you're there. I see some of my teachers and even principal, they line up for events, so happy to introduce you and to say, "I remember this kid," and all of that. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like you're looking at it now and you're saying, because the community is attached to people, and your success is their success and all of that. And this is what the enemy is doing. The enemy has destroyed community at interaction. Once upon a time, we were spread out over a large land space, and we knew everybody's name. Today, we have neighbors. We live in buildings, and we hear that the person you live at 807 and the person at 808 end up dying, and you didn't even know the person. You said, "Oh, this is so sad. You're 807. And the person is 808, but yet the person died, and you're saying, who is the person?" This is the kind of society we have today. I had a former classmate who passed away recently in 2017, and he died for 3 days. No one knew about his death. The reality is that community interaction and strength has been weakening everywhere. Racial division can be seen everywhere. Racism is the most, illogical thing. Yet at the same time, we make such a massive issue over it. And so racial tension is just so prevalent, where people are judged by contrary to the content of their characters, as Martin Luther would say, Luther King. But instead of the content of their character or anything like that, just simply because of the shade you took on. And the funny thing is that racism is everywhere. We look at distinct culture and colors and things like that, and then after a while, if it's within our country, we still have all kinds of tribal conflict. Many nations are prosperous but cannot go forward because, again, this is not even a different race, so to speak, even though there is really only one race, the human race. It's the same color, but then tribal conflicts are so strong and differences are so intense that if one goes in power, the others suffer who are not from their tribe. Let me tell you something. It's a human problem that goes far beyond color problem. But it's so intense everywhere. The next attack for the enemy, next up is the family. And he has started this onslaught. And we need to be aware of it. You must fight for the family. Father, it is your responsibility to also stand up and fight. Mother, it's your responsibility to fight. Son, it's your responsibility to fight. Daughter, it's your responsibility to fight. Aunt, it's your responsibility to fight. Uncle, it's your responsibility. Cousin, it's your responsibility. Grandma, it's your responsibility. Grandpa, it's your responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. And so individualism have become so prominent to the point where patriarchal and matriarchal individuals now are now considered to be irrelevant. God desires a powerful family. And practically speaking, we mentioned a few things last week, and I'm just going to just finish it up today. We mentioned last week, you must not be selfish. Don't be selfish. If you're going to go forward, don't be selfish. Don't be selfish with your pattern. Don't let everything revolve around you. It's not all about you. There's a bigger cause, the family. Embrace family, meaning that you must recognize it as important. You must be deliberate to ensure that things are seen and practiced to advance the cause of the family. So do not be selfish. 1. 2, embrace family. 3, try to meet up with family. One relative called me and said, I'm having a birthday celebration in Florida, and I'm thinking, I shouldn't go, and I can't go, I don't have the time. And then all of a sudden, something said to me, well, what if it was a funeral? You'd find your way there. And I thought to myself, I guess I can go. I can arrange my schedule. It's family. Then I said, I'm coming. And then the person said, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're coming because my family means so much to me. And I'm like, communicate, talk. It's very difficult sometimes to how do you put it? You want to talk, but you almost feel silly because it's almost like it's not welcome. We should develop a welcome environment for speaking to make it easier for people, even if they do foolish things, are goofy in the process. It's a two-way thing as far as communication. Use social media at times for those who are especially far. But funny enough, you need social media for those who are in the room next door many times too. Because social media has given us the capacity to connect and to disconnect. And we've utilized the connect for the far people and the disconnect for the close people. Another thing is, number 5, use social media. Number 6, we said be humble. Take advice. Recognize, that, just recognize that, especially from experienced people, there are benefits, and sometimes inexperienced people too. Amazing the things you can learn. Take advice. Apologize. Respect elders. Ask for help. Number 7, share resources. Look at your life as something that goes beyond you. Everything you make, it's not for your makeup and your shoes and your style and all of these things. Your body can only take so much. Look beyond the mirror and start looking at the horizon there. You share your resources so as to help build them. So if you become prosperous and if you become some CEO, if you become some director, some senior manager, some elite this or elite that or whatever the case may be, you become some professor, you become some scientist, you become some kind of person who's well off in terms of career in management, finance, whatever field, remember your family. Now, we don't say go give it to the idle one out there who takes it to go show off and where laziness become a profession. No. You give it especially to people with high potential, people with good heart, because you're always looking for that. People, you want to pour into people who will pour into other people. You want to help family member who will better other family member and make your family strong. The problem today in our society is that we are losing the link. We're not able to connect that kind of attitude of gratitude with the next generation to recognize that, look, man, it's not all about you, but you can be a leader. You can be a Joseph. You can be a Moses. You can be an Abraham, a Isaac, a Jacob. You can build families. Am I making sense here? And so we need to look beyond ourselves, share our resources. Another thing, number 8, is to reconnect where connection is broken. Life is like that. We're always, I don't know about you, but I don't stand here I stand here as a parent sometimes who don't even know how to parent. Some days I'm there, I'm saying, how do you go about it? But when connection is broken, and the same thing with other family members, as much as possible, do that. Do that with your wife also. Sometimes when you're going through rituals where you're going through hardship and you kind of forget why you're together, sometimes you can go through the whole thing of working hard, trying to pay the bill. There ain't nothing going on but the rent. And all of that, you're going through various kind of challenges. And in the midst of it, guess what? You can lose your passion and your fire for each other. You have to be very careful. You have to go back into memory lane. And then after a while, you just have to be there. Yesterday, my wife was in there.
Thank you for joining us at The Rock. Not only are we a community-oriented and multicultural church, but we are a church that recognizes the significance of families. We invite you to join us on Sunday mornings for our worship service. You can also visit our website for more information or contact us on the number below. We look forward to seeing you again at The Rock.
Solid Rock welcomes you.